Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, your space for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I am your host, DylanLasagna. This is episode number 167 of this icy yet spicy sports podcast. Today, we got a good show for you all because it's time to talk about some wrestling once again, because we kind of haven't done that in quite some time, at least in the podcast form, because if you have noticed, at least for my audio listeners out there, I've been more leaning towards the YouTube side. So if you haven't already, for my audio listeners out there, my audio only people, go subscribe to the Very Cold Lasagna YouTube channel. I've been doing my usual NFL coverage and on occasional instances, some wrestling talk over there as well. So the YouTube has been doing all right, by the way. So yeah. But here we are once again, going multi-platform per se, YouTube and audio, to talk about some wrestling here on the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, because there was a wrestling pay-per-view that happened this past weekend on Saturday, April. No, not April. We're way too behind on that. But it is October 7th, 2023, and that was in Indianapolis, Indiana, called Fastlane. Yes, a pay-per-view called WWE Fastlane 2023, the 2023 edition of WWE Fastlane. I don't know why they decided to go with Fastlane, but I mean, the Indy 500 is a well-known racing event. So I mean, I don't think the Indy 500 took place, but there was something else racing related happening for WWE that weekend. But sure, they went with that one. So they went with that pay-per-view theme, I guess. But nonetheless, personally for me, going into this pay-per-view, I honestly wasn't really in tune with most of these storylines, most of these matches, because, football season is ongoing right now, so I'm paying more attention to that. I do give my thoughts and opinions on Twitter, on my own Twitter per se, but other than that, it's just I can really care less what's going on. So, because, I just pay more attention during this time to what's going on in the NFL. But nonetheless, I still wanted to see what was going on with this pay-per-view. And I noticed that, 2 weeks in, that they were just starting to announce matches for this show. I'm like, why? What are we doing here? And I get it, because the merger with TKO, WWE and UFC and all that. But it's weird. It was definitely a weird show. They did in the past before. They just announced the card out of the blue, but this was just one of those weird shows. And it was a short show too, just five matches. But maybe it's gonna be one of those very short shows, which was definitely in my mind would have been good. But we have to wait to be seen. See how it would gone, because sometimes they just love to stretch it sometimes. But nonetheless, that's what we're here to talk about today in this kind of late, out-of-date WWE pay-per-view review titled Fastlane 2023. So before we get into the swing of things with this Fastlane 2023 review, a little housekeeping per sorts. Make sure you follow the show on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna, and listen to the show wherever you want to, whether it's on audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever major audio podcasting platform that Very Cold Lasagna is available on. And if you're listening and watching this on YouTube, subscribe, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, share this with your friends, share this with a stranger, leave a comment down below. All the good stuff, ladies and gentlemen, all the good stuff. And the scheduling this week for Very Cold Lasagna is going to be a little weird because, there's a certain primetime game that's going on for the San Francisco 49ers, which is going to throw all things out of flux. For those of you that are not following football, it's going to definitely throw things out of flux. Aside from this pay-per-view review. So, in essence, this Fastlane review, I imagine, is going to be released first, and then Tuesday, after that, it's going to be my 49ers and Dallas Cowboys recap from the Sunday Night Football game, and then Wednesday is going to be the overall Week 5 review of this NFL season. And then we move with our regularly scheduled YouTube upload schedule for whatever's going on next. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So now let's get started talking about this pay-per-view from Indianapolis, Indiana, titled Fastlane. So this is actually the first pay-per-view following the official merger, which took place a couple weeks ago between WWE and UFC into TKA Group Holdings. So remember Vince McMahon selling the WWE to Ari Emanuel, the CEO or whatever his title is of TKO. But nonetheless, the merger was official several weeks ago, and now this is the first pay-per-view titled Fastlane, in which WWE was not owned or ran by the McMahon family because of, Endeavor's purchase of the WWE. So, yeah, it was, it did seem like a lot has changed, like, in the first two, like, Raws or SmackDowns. From the clips that I saw, everything ran as smoothly as it was, in terms of quality. Bleh. But nonetheless, not a lot of expectations for me going into this show. So normally, as for the pay-per-view itself, the theme is centered around the fast lane to WrestleMania. It's like the last stop, like the last lane, and in terms of a race, I guess, the last lap towards WrestleMania. But since this was being held in April, it was a little weird that they were doing Fastlane in the first place. But I guess they decided to hold it because it was going to be held in Indianapolis, Indiana, home of the Indy 500 for that certain racing event. But the Indy 500 is not typically held in October. I don't know how I know that, but I do. But I guess there's another certain thing, but it is down in Charlotte, North Carolina, a NASCAR event that was happening, and there was a certain living superstar that was going to be appearing at that race. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that's why they did Fastlane, but I don't know. But anyway, as for this event, there was a certain other superstar that did the cold open who played for the Indianapolis Colts. You guess who it is? Yeah, you probably figured. That was Pat McAfee, ladies and gentlemen. Pat McAfee did the cold open. They even had him record the open. There's shots of him in his studio. It was kind of weird that they did that, but nonetheless, good to see Pat McAfee actually do the cold open. I was hoping that they were gonna have him in some kind of presence during this show. I was hoping because it was in Indianapolis, Indiana. I know he does his college game day stuff, for ESPN, but I was hoping that because this was in his state of Indiana, that he would at least have some presence, do something for Fastlane. So, I don't know. Something, ladies and gentlemen, something. So now we get to the actual match card itself. Like I said, 5 matches, so hopefully, I was hoping for a short show. Then we start off with the opening match of the pay-per-view, and that was the Undisputed Tag Team Champions, the Judgment Lame, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, defending their titles against the makeshift team of Cody Rhodes and Main Event. Well, you should be opening match. That should be his nickname now. Opening match, Jey Uso. So basically, this match is happening for those of you that haven't been keeping tabs on recent WWE programming. But basically, this match is happening because Cody Rhodes brought back Jey Uso after he quote unquote quit the WWE after he got into a big fight with the Bloodline, and after his brother Jimmy cost him the undisputed WWE title at SummerSlam in his match with Roman, which I'm still disappointed, by the way. But nonetheless, Cody used whatever political stroke that he mentioned to bring back Jey Uso, and he brought him over to Raw. So in the weeks leading up to the pay-per-view, because most of the Raw locker room hated him, they were very uneasy with him because of his past history with the Bloodline. He was all right, whatever. But then the Judgment Day, because WWE apparently sees them as the new Bloodline, so they attempt to recruit Jey. That includes Rhea Ripley for whatever reason. So Jay declines that, and the Judgment Day minus Rhea, and I think also minus Finn Balor, but I don't know. Correct me on that. They beat down Jay like a couple weeks ago, and then Cody saves them, and then on the go home show for Fastlane, like days prior, Adam Pearce announced that there's going to be a tag team title match at Fastlane between the champions Balor and Priest going up against Cody and Jay. So yeah, that's what leads to this match. I mean, as for the match itself, I mean, I thought it was good. I thought this was a good match. It was certainly a lot of like slow spots in this match, you know, like with the traditional tag team flow. But once, you know, you got the hot tags from Cody and Jay, it really started to pick up. I did notice there were like a little bit of concern for like Cody because of it. Like he seemed to have hurt his neck on like a superplex spot on Finn Balor. And then when Damian Priest did a Hurricanrana, tried to do a Hurricanrana on Jay, he landed pretty bad on his knee. So it was like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't be doing that spot. I mean, like, please don't. Especially considering like Damian's age. I think he's like early 40s or like late 30s. Like, eh. So anyway, you had Rhea Ripley and Dirty Dan, Dominic Mysterio, come down at midway through the match. Jay immediately super kicks Dominic in the face, and then Rhea Ripley tries to seduce. She tries to, you know, want to get in, you know, Jay's, you know. But Jay's like, no, sorry, I'm not interested. Which, rightfully so, you shouldn't be. So anyway, and then you have JD McDonuts also get involved, and he ends up being the deciding factor for this match because he tries to help the Judgment Lame, but instead he hurts them because Damian Priest's knee is already fucked up, and he fucks it up even more when Damian Priest is trying to put Cody through the announce table. Damian Priest gets his knee buckled by JD McDonuts or JD McDonough or whatever you want to call him. Let's call him JD McDoofyhead. JD McDoofyhead hits Damian Priest's bad knee with his purple Money in the Bank briefcase, and Cody knocks him out with the Crossroads on top of the announce table. And then JD McDonuts gets knocked out by Jay on a top rope Sudicida. And then Cody and Jay finish off Balor with a 1D Cody Cutter combo, which, I mean, that was a good double team move. And then Cody hits the Crossroads and finishes the story. No, I'm just kidding. And Cody and Jay win the undisputed tag team titles off of the Judgment Lame. So yeah, I'd say pretty good opening match. It's just really interesting where they go from here. Especially considering that, you know, now that the Judgment Lame no longer have the tag team titles, are they finally gonna play off on that dissension? You know, the dissension that they've been constantly teasing all summer long, but you know, WWE never seems to want to go full in on. I don't know. And then what about the Money in the Bank contract that Damian Priest has? When is he gonna finally strike on that? Stay tuned on that in just a bit. But for Cody and Jay, I mean, now their trust for each other has completely doubled, especially considering what happened in the post-show presser. But I feel like, seriously though, I feel like Jey Uso's enemies, when WWE's gonna start booking his stories like later down the line, are probably gonna grow beyond the Judgment Lame in the Raw locker room. I mean, just look at it. Kevin Owens hates his guts. I mean, Sami Zayn already likes him, but I don't know, considering that Cody and Jay just won the tag team titles, but they said that, oh, Sami and Kevin will get the next shot, and that'll be a little bit interesting. And then you have Drew McIntyre, who is slowly starting to build his way towards being back to the dark side. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting where they go from here. And more importantly, I think that by now, having the undisputed tag team titles, Cody and Jay can now go to SmackDown. Like, they can traverse between Raw and SmackDown. And perhaps this will start the pathway for not just Cody planting the seeds for his rematch with Roman in Philadelphia next year, but also maybe for Jay to start planting his own seeds for his match with his brother Jimmy as well. So, all in all, I mean, pretty good opening match, and maybe this can also lead to them start like planting teases for next year's WrestleMania with those titles. Not in terms of like, oh, Cody and Jay keeping the titles, you know. So our second match involved the LWO, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, and someone else going up against the new formidable duo, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. So basically this feud began with Bobby Lashley gaining the interest of the Street Profits, you know, the fan favorite tag team, who he had taken under his wing and wanted to groom them with a new attitude. However, in recent events, they were defeated by the LWO's Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar, and he was pretty pissed off about it. He was ready to send them off to catering if he couldn't prove that if he couldn't prove that they could both start winning and do it not just his way, but with justice, I guess. I don't know what it was. So anyway, Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar had a U.S. title match, and then afterwards, when they were showing respect for each other, the Street Profits, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins attacked him, showed off the new mean streak, and even like destroyed Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. So basically, throwing away the numbers advantage for the LWO. And Bobby Lashley was like, okay, yay! And then basically was back on Lashley's good side. So that led to a match being scheduled for Fastlane. But the night before Fastlane, Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde were taken out by the Street Profits, like during a match between Bobby Lashley and Rey Mysterio. So that left the LWO a member short. And who's going to be that third member? We don't know. So Rey Mysterio tried to call someone, but he didn't pick up. He didn't pick up yet. So they're going to be basically down to a handicap match for the time being. However, I will say this. It can't be another Rey Mysterio match without another weird sponsorship. But I'll say it wasn't Cinnamon Toast Crunch this time. It was Pizza Hut of all sponsors. Pizza Hut. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'll at least it's something that okay, we can eat. We can eat. I mean, Pizza Hut's kind of lost its luster a little bit, but I mean, it's kind of it's still kind of a go-to at the same time. But it is what it is. So, especially considering what Montez Ford said, like to the crowd, it's like, oh no, you can't have your damn pizzas. So anyway, Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar were basically in a handicap match with Bobby and the Profits, where they were basically dominating most of that match. And midway through, Rey was trying to tag in Santos, but Montez took him out. Zelina even got involved for a brief moment with a Meteora to Montez Ford behind the referee's back, which took him out briefly, but not too long. But still, they were down a partner. They were still getting dominated. And with Rey taking out the three heel guys, and he's trying to get that partner. He was trying to get his partner, even though they already had a partner. The ghost. I'm just kidding. But anyway, the call though was finally answered when a familiar sound kinda was called. Hey, that's uncool. But yeah, the call was finally answered in the form of a Caribbean cool. Carlito was finally fully back in the WWE. His first appearance since Backlash back in May, albeit unfortunately without his a spin in the face of the people who don't want to be cool. Without his signature theme song. I was like, what the fuck? How could you not have his signature theme song? The new theme song sounds so whack, dude. It's like I don't like it sounds something like that, but it sounds so generic. Like fuck you, Def Rebel. Fuck you, WWE, you cheap assholes. Like, if Tony Khan can pay up the ass for, like, the final countdown or Edge's Metalingus, like, WWE can certainly, like, go out of this way to pay for Jim Johnson's rights to something like Carlito's theme song. Like, come on here. Like, why are you being such cheap asses? Like, come on. This ain't cool, as Carlito would say. But anyway, good to see Carlito back. That significantly changed the tide for the LWO as they took out the Almighty Prophets, and Carlito finished off Montez Ford with a backstabber for the win. Distracting match graphics aside, with the whole Pizza Hut like literally filled around the ring, I think it's pretty solid. I thought there's a pretty solid match. It seems like Carlito is finally back full time. I just thought it was a shame though that in the Street Profits' first match as heels, they took a loss. So it kind of gives their credibility a little bit of a hit. But I mean, I think they'll bounce back. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I just hope that they build Bobby and the Street Profits to actually bounce back, to give them some wins, so they can continue to build up that heel act that they got going on. But as for Carlito and the LWO, it'll be interesting where they go from here. Certainly, maybe it'll create some division between whatever they got going on in the future, especially considering with Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, they're eventually going to feud. I mean, yeah, especially considering that Carlito's back, maybe a split, an LWO civil war. I don't know. But we'll see what happens there. So our third matchup of the night had the WWE Women's Champion it's not Io Shirai anymore. Io Sky take on Charlotte Flair and Asuka in a triple threat match. Since SummerSlam, I guess. She's been on and off feuding with both Asuka and Charlotte. And 2 weeks prior, Charlotte and Asuka made the challenge to Io for a title, and Bayley assumed that Io wanted both of them in a triple threat match and accepted on her behalf, even though Io told her that's not what she wanted. So, yeah, that's pretty much the basis of that feud. And on the pre-show, Io Sky told Bayley and Dakota Kai, who's still recovering from an injury, but she's still there nonetheless, that she would be going it alone. She doesn't want the help of Bayley. She doesn't want the help of Dakota, even though Dakota can't really do anything. But she would be going it alone, pretty much. All right, okay. So I thought we were going to get a very quick victory for Asuka because she tried to take an immediate win by using the blue mist on Charlotte Flair. But Io managed to break up the very early pin. And while Charlotte was being tended to by medics to get that blue mist out of her eyes, Asuka and Io were battling out in the ring, both for the title and honestly for fan interest. That includes me because, I mean, I'm not going to deny that they're pretty good wrestlers in the ring, but it's just like, I mean, especially Io, I mean, like, I don't know. Something doesn't really excite me as much with Io Sky as much as Asuka. I mean, at least with Asuka, she at least tries a little in terms of her character, in terms of her personality. But with Io Sky, it's just like nothing really resonates with me. And I know some people will get all ragey with me if they ever happen to find this podcast. It's like, oh, you're just a hater. You don't know shit. It's like, well, sorry, I don't see anything with Io Sky. And I still stand by what I say a couple episodes ago that, oh, Io Sky's just a Splatoon girl with Dakota. It's Bayley's Splatoon girls. So anyway, Charlotte managed to get back in the proceedings. And towards the end of the match, you had Bayley come out with Io down at ringside, even though Io told her that you got to stay out of the ring. You got to stay backstage. And Charlotte was on the verge of winning the match with the figure 8. But Bayley went to save the match for Io by distracting the referee on the apron. And Asuka was literally like tapping out. But with Bayley distracting the referee, that you couldn't see it. Like, Charlotte didn't get the win, and then here comes Io Sky out of nowhere with the moonsault, and the referee does see that and gets the 1, 2, 3 on Charlotte, and wins it. So, I mean, it's not a bad match, but I just wasn't really that interested in it. And at least from a story perspective, though, it gives Charlotte some rights to a rematch. Probably it happens at like Crown Jewel or Survivor Series. I don't know. I mean, you do only have like 2 pay-per-views left in the year, but I mean, you have all of December to like do something on TV. But nonetheless, from a story perspective, one, it gives you an opportunity, Charlotte an opportunity to a rematch, and then the ending will definitely serve at least a purpose for when WWE does an eventual EO versus Bayley, and then maybe if Dakota is cleared, a full-on damage control 3-way feud. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say with this matchup. So then, our fourth matchup before the main event of the night, we had John Cena and L.A. Knight. Yeah, taking on the team of Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. I guess Jimmy Uso is apparently back in the bloodline. I don't know. Was that ever confirmed? I don't know. But anyway, John Cena, a month prior, made his return before Payback to announce that he was going to be the host of that pay-per-view. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen? And then just before he was about to leave, Jimmy Uso interrupted him and Cena fended him off. And 2 weeks later, Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa attacked Cena before AJ Styles came out to save him. And then that led to a tag team match being scheduled for Fastlane with Cena being Styles' partner, going up against Solo and Jimmy. But then they took out Styles, and that left Cena without a partner. And Cena wanted to go it alone to be in a handicap match, I guess. And then after another beatdown by Solo and Jimmy, here came L.A. Knight, to save Cena from another beatdown and sign the contract to be his partner. Now keep in mind that LA Knight already got the big endorsement back at Payback from when John Cena did the special referee job for his match with The Miz. So yeah, this is certainly going to be his biggest test yet, though, because he was going to be teaming up with one of the biggest stars of all time for the WWE in John Cena. So this was like his one chance to impress in a actual match with, like, as a partner. I mean, yeah, you're not facing Cena, but you're still in a physical match with Cena. So it's going to be interesting how that was going to go. So before the match began, as I noted, I wanted Pat McAfee to get involved in some way or shape or form in any capacity with this pay-per-view. And boy, did I get my wish. Thank you. Thank you, God. Because Pat McAfee came out to the delight of the Indianapolis fans in that Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And yeah, he was carrying around that Colts belt that WWE is selling now. And it was mentioned that he flew from Texas from one of their ESPN college football games all the way to Indianapolis. Like, I don't know how long of a flight that is, but damn, that's crazy. That must be a fast ass plane. It must have took a fighter jet. But anyway, and then in a pre-match promo, he mentioned that Indianapolis deserves a WrestleMania, and we'll say that they could get one. I guess I'll say this. Well, maybe we should get George Kittle to say that. Oh, Santa Clara deserves a WrestleMania. San Francisco deserves a WrestleMania. So yeah, let's pause. Let's put the brakes on that because, well, I think we should have George Kittle say, "Oh, WWE needs to have a pay-per-view back here in the Bay Area, huh?" But in all seriousness, in my opinion, I think Indianapolis probably won't be getting one in some time since there are other candidates like rumoredly Minnesota, Las Vegas, Nashville, hell, even London. So yeah, it'll probably take some time for that to happen. Well, it's still good to see Pat McAfee once again. And he was going to do commentary on this match. So I'll say for this match itself, I mean, it was all right. It was good for what it was. But I will say that it was kind of odd to see Cena so shook at Solo. I mean, like, dude, you faced Umaga back in the day. Like, Umaga is much bigger. He's much more formidable than Solo Sikoa. Like, how you that shook against Solo? Against Solo Sikoa. What the hell? It's like, come on, John. You could lift up this dude. So this match saw John Cena get dominated by Jimmy and Solo for like nearly 3/4 of this match. But then you see John Cena finally make the hot tag to LA Knight while Paul Heyman was talking with Roman Reigns on the phone. And LA Knight came in, racing in like a Lamborghini or whatever race cars they use, NASCAR, towards Jimmy Uso. And man, Indianapolis was red hot for him too. But in came in Solo Sikoa to stop the momentum. And then Cena responded with a crossbody onto Solo. And then Jimmy Uso came in with the Uso splash from Jimmy onto Cena. And then everybody was down, Maggle. And then they finished, saw LA Knight hitting a jumping superplex like Pat McAfee often did when he was wrestling. And I gotta say, maybe he should chill when he's doing that, please. I sometimes I get afraid when Pat McAfee, not Pat McAfee. Well, I do get afraid when Pat McAfee slips, but at least he had the athleticism to do it. But there are times where I get afraid that LA Knight is gonna botch that thing. But yeah, maybe he should kind of cut that from his reservoir. So anyway, LA Knight hits the jumping superplex onto Jimmy Uso, and Cena did the 5-knuckle shuffle, and then LA Knight finishes it off with the blunt force trauma onto Jimmy Uso to get the win. So LA Knight, from what I saw, when he wrestled in the ring, passed another test. A lot of crisp, clean offense. When he was battling Solo and Jimmy, the twirling power slam is still luck of the draw, just like other moves like the jumping superplex, which again, I think that he needs to cut that out of this moveset. And I kind of feel bad for Jimmy Uso, to be honest with you, because what he has going on in terms of his own storyline, at least with his part of what they're trying to build with him, it's not really clicking with me, because he's pretty much being used as a leecher. He's kind of like a leecher that wants to be the tribal chief, but he's just like hanging on. He's like literally just wants to, I guess, suck the D to Roman that bad. And yet Paul Heyman hasn't made that official. So at least we'll get a little bit more clarity when Roman Reigns finally makes his return from long ass vacation on SmackDown and save this bloodline story from further going down the toilet, I guess. But now, at least for LA Knight, though, perhaps now what does he do next? Does he go for well, I don't know if he can go for a U.S. title shot, because they're probably going to lead to something with Rey and Santos. You can't necessarily go to Raw because Gunther's, I don't know how you're going to get there. They're going to try to write that. But what do you do now? Like, you pretty much done all you could with John Cena at this point. There's not really much of a direction you can go with the current roster, other than an even bigger test in the next month or so. Perhaps a seat right next to the tribal chief. Interesting stuff there. So then we had our main event of Fastlane 2023, and that was the World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins defending his championship against Shinsuke Nakamura in a rematch, but this time around it was going to be under last man standing rules. Seth Rollins would retain his World Heavyweight title over Shinsuke at Payback. However, he would need assistance out of the arena because, well, Shinsuke was really obsessed with his back. He really was obsessed with like ending Seth's life because of his back, at least in storyline context, of course. So over the next couple weeks leading up to this event, Rollins would challenge Shinsuke to a rematch because of what happened, but Shinsuke, after initially refusing and getting to fights with Seth, he accepted the challenge after Seth let him choose the stipulation and the place to do it, which ended up being this stipulation, the last man standing match. So, Seth gets some early offense in, but Shinsuke, he would mostly control this match because, of Seth's like back issues. And there were some like kind of weird spots in this match, like Shinsuke introducing nunchucks, playing Houston Astros baseball with a kendo stick. And then they used a table, but the table wouldn't break. And then they later went into the crowd. And then they were fighting on a flight of stairs. This is where things really started to take a turn. A turn for Seth. So Seth was punching Shinsuke like in the corner. He was beating him down, but then Shinsuke like was in a good position to punch Seth in the dick. So he low blowed him, and then he pushed him up down onto a hard crash pad. So there's the element of the back once again. So Seth's back was like severely messed up in the context of the story because he landed on like something that really damaged his back. So you go back ringside. Seth tries to go for a pedigree on the concrete that exposed very early in the match by ripping apart the padding. But then Nakamura counters it into a backdrop, and Seth lands back first onto the concrete, and his back continues to get fucked up. And then Shinsuke back in the ring puts Seth through a table with a double knee splash from the top rope, and back once again fucked up. Seth barely is able to get up from the 8 count. And at this point, it's like all these moves that Shinsuke is trying to do, it's like, okay, maybe Shinsuke might win the World Heavyweight Championship. So Seth, he tries to superplex Shinsuke through the announce table off a ladder, but then Nakamura sprays red mist onto Seth and pushes him off the ladder through the announce table, but then Seth barely gets up at the count of 9. And then Shinsuke, back in the ring, hits the Kinshasa on Seth through the table that they couldn't break earlier, but Seth rolls out of the ring to beat the 10 count. And then I'm just wondering, okay, it's clear and obvious that Seth's going to retain by however means that he can. And I was hoping that something else was going to happen, but we'll talk about when we get there. So Shinsuke looked ready to finish Seth. They were like back in the crowd, like they're on the hard camp side of the arena now. So Shinsuke looked to finish Seth off. They were on like this pillar or something. I don't know where it was, but then Seth out of nowhere hits a pedigree on Shin, and then a curb stomp, and then he took him for a ride with a Falcon Arrow through 4 tables, and then that's how Seth retained his title on a Falcon Arrow through 4 tables, which was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of like a piss in the wind. I don't know, but yeah, Seth is still your World Heavyweight Champion, and that was your show. Like, yeah, that was pretty much your show, ladies and gentlemen. So, I mean, it wasn't a very bad last man standing match. I mean, I thought it was fine, but I felt like there were moments where it's just like, okay, like Shinsuke is doing all this stuff to Seth's back. It's clear that he's inflicting all this damage on his back. Like, I thought he was gonna actually pull off. That he was gonna book a surprise here. That Shinsuke was actually gonna take that title off of Seth, but no, Seth retained. He went full Super Seth in on Shinsuke. So basically, it was like, as I said on Twitter, basically what happened. Shinsuke did all that stuff to Seth's back for not just on Fastlane, but for weeks, for nothing. So not only that, it's just like every weaker, damaging move that Shinsuke did not only proved to be for nothing, but it's because that they completely missed out on having a very clear and obvious thing to do after the match. Have Seth Rollins go back in the ring and get cashed in on. Have Damian Priest cash in his Money in the Bank. And I get it. I get it that perhaps I don't know if it's legit or storyline. I don't know how the context of Damian Priest's own injury, knee injury is. Perhaps regardless, that injury earlier in the night affected things, affected the planning of that. But in the context of this storyline, Seth's back was clearly fucked up. It was severely fucked up to the point that the dude shouldn't be standing. He's clearly running on pure adrenaline that the dude shouldn't be standing. He should have been collapsed in the ring. In my opinion, that this was the point. This was the time. Fastlane was the time to have Damian Priest go out there, cash in, get that title off of Seth. But no, ladies and gentlemen, he had to go cuck out once again to Rhea Ripley and give him his Money in the Bank briefcase. But then, doesn't he also have the green one? Doesn't he still have the original green one? And I know that sometimes, you put the contract in the purple briefcase, but then sometimes you switch it out. Misdirection. But yeah, what a really missed opportunity by the WWE to end the pay-per-view on a bit of a surprise, a little bit of a shocker. You haven't really had one of those in a while. So, and that's the problem. You have a couple of problems going forward towards the rest of the year, because in terms of Damian Priest's cash in, you have either one or two outcomes. Either WWE's gonna pull a Big E once again, like they did 2 years ago, and have Damian Priest cash it in on some random episode of Raw to try and steal viewers from Monday Night Football, which they won't, even though it's gonna be the Packers and the Raiders. But still, you're not gonna steal viewers from that. Or two, he's gonna pull an Austin Theory and fail the cash in. This could have been so easy to do, but then sometimes I don't understand. Not sometimes. A lot of times I don't understand Triple H's thinking. I really don't. I really don't understand Triple H's thought process. With Vince, there are a lot of things I can understand with Vince. Some of the things that are quickly rushed and not thought out by Vince, but at least he can make some things make sense. And I know some things are out of touch and all that, but come on. But with Triple H, it's just And then another problem. WWE faces a major problem until Damian Priest is cashed in, that Seth has no challengers. Seth has no challengers left for his World Heavyweight title. Unless, you have Logan Paul. You have Logan Paul face you at Crown Jewel. Oh, no, wait. He's in that boxing match. I think he's doing that boxing match with some guy. And just before that. So, nope. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be available to do that. So, yeah. He has no challengers. Seth has no challengers left. He's already dealt with the Judgment Lane. That being both Damian and Finn Balor. What are you going to have him face? Dominic? Or Rhea? You've already dealt with Shinsuke Nakamura. And yeah, you already dropped the ball on not having Damian Priest cash in, knee injury and all. But who's out there on Raw that WWE can build towards their last two pay-per-views of the year as legit challengers for Seth? That being Crown Jewel and Survivor Series. Bronson Reed, yeah, they're trying to build them up. They're trying to slowly get him up there, but he's not ready yet. Gunther, he still has the Intercontinental Championship, and he's a likely challenger for Seth or whoever holds the World Heavyweight title next year in Philly. Or, yeah, And then Drew McIntyre, they're still working on having him go towards the dark side. So who are you going to throw out there? The Jizz? Jinder my balls? I don't know. WWE has to figure out something for Seth's next opponent, and they got to do it soon on Raw this coming Monday. So overall, this Payback pay-per-view, I mean, I thought for all of its flaws, for its ending, and the problems that they got to fix like soon, I mean, I thought it was a very solid show. It's very manageable to sit through with 5 matches, and I think that should be WWE's sweet spot with these like C filler pay-per-views. And yeah, there was like a little bit of surprises here and there, like Cody and Jay actually winning the tag team titles, and Carlito coming back to WWE full time. But yeah, other than that, I mean, this show was like something I probably won't like go back to like at any point, because like, yeah, it's just like a filler pay-per-view. But I mean, it was a terrible filler pay-per-view, per se. It was just like a solid one at best. But yeah. Anyway, that is my thoughts and my review of Fastlane 2023. If you happen to catch this show this past weekend, I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's have a discussion about it. And however way you can. Again, comments on YouTube or a message on social media. I'm always on Twitter and Instagram at DylanLasagna. So let's have a conversation about Fastlane 2023. But anyway, that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning in to this episode number 167 of this icy yet spicy podcast. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.